I want to open up Visual Studio and talk about some of the things that you will need to modify in your settings in order that hopefully your experience creating projects in Visual Basic will go a bit better. The things that we need to change are under the Tools options. So, you should never start a new project and get something like this dialog box that either just has one line that asks you for the name of the project or has a couple of lines but is missing a option to specify where you want the project to be saved. You do not want this to happen. Okay. Also, in this class, you'll notice that I clicked in the middle column on a different option. You always want to pick the Windows format. So down at the bottom, the default name of your project is Windows App 1, just like all Microsoft packages do. They, like Word uses Document 1, Excel uses Book 1. Well, Visual Basic uses Windows App 1. That's what we want. You'll notice that there are 3 columns here. If when you installed Visual Basic, you forgot to specify that the package you wanted was Visual Basic, no problem. Notice I click here, okay? I can see other languages, C#. There are 3 other languages that are also within the Visual Studio package. Okay, C++, JavaScript, and F#. You will want Visual Basic. So in the first column, make sure you have Visual Basic selected. You may need to pick a subset if in the middle column you do not have the option for Windows format. It doesn't, depending on how it's set up, the Windows format may not be in the middle column with just Visual Basic set. You may have to do something such as click on the Windows desktop, and notice when I click on the Windows format here, it still comes down to the bottom. So whether I just pick Visual Basic or the subset of Visual Basic Windows desktop, I do get the application I want. And like I said, these are the only types of applications we will be creating in this class. But you do not want to start creating a project with this dialog box. We want to modify the dialog box so that when you start a project, one of the first things you do is you always rename the default project name from Windows App 1 to something that makes sense. If you're working on a project that has to do with payroll, call it payroll. If you're working on a project that is for, let's say, Lab 3, please do not name it Lab 3. Name it something that means something to the project you'll be creating, not the fact that you are working on your Lab 3 assignment. So I'm going to close this up. So I'm going to hit cancel. And the things you need to change is you go under the Tools option. You choose Options. You then scroll down. You want to look for Project and Solutions. And this option here, which says Save New Projects when created. By doing this, every time we create a new project, we will get another line in that dialog box that asks us exactly what the location is where we want to save the project. Please be cognizant of this and pay attention to this, because if you don't, Visual Basic will choose where to put the project, and it probably will be in your users folder in about 3 or 4 subfolders, and you will have no idea where the project that you worked so hard on is located. So you want to check this option. Then you also want to click on the text editor and notice that there's a triangle next to text editor. I want to get the subset. So when I click, the triangle goes down. I want to get into basic, since that's the language we'll be working with. And what you want to choose over here is 2 things if they're not checked. If they're checked, great. It seems like Visual Studio 2017 has line numbers already checked, but if not, that's nice because it will display the line numbers for you so that if you get an error while running the program, the nice window at the bottom of your Visual Basic screen will say, okay, the error is in such and such a line number. Well, if you don't have line number displayed, you have to manually count from the first line down, and nobody wants to do that. So you want line numbers. The other option you want is word wrap, because the beginning of a procedure where code is put, like say when you click on a button within a form, the heading of that procedure is fairly long, and depending on the size of your window, that procedure name can wrap off the screen. And one of those things, out of sight, out of mind, and some students forget that there is text to the right, and you'll have a scroll bar at the bottom, a horizontal scroll bar that you can scroll over, but a lot of students don't notice that. If you put on word wrap and the text is more than can be shown on the form window, or excuse me, the code window, with the word wrap, it just automatically takes the text that would go off the screen and puts it on the next line. So it just makes your life a lot easier. So now I'm going to click on OK. Also, you should have the 2 windows over here because you'll be needing them very much so. The Property window and the Solution Explorer window. This window shows the name of your project, the name of your form, and basically lets you know what's going on in the project. The Properties window is where when you put objects onto the form, such as a button, if you would like to make the button's color red, you would go into the back color property of the button and change it. So that's why you want this window here. And these windows may not be sitting here in the beginning, but you can move them over wherever you would like. Also, if you do not see a window, because right now, all right, you don't see the toolbox, but it is because of the way I have it set up. You can always click on the View menu option, and the View menu option will give you every possible window that is available. And right there's the toolbox. So just to let you know. So in this case, I am going to start a new project. And notice, hey, now my dialog box, okay, has 3 lines. First line says name, and again, Windows App 1. The second line has the location. And notice that path, okay? That is going to be the default path. Notice it says C:, so it's going to be on the hard drive of your computer, the default path, under the users folder. But you'll notice, especially in Visual Studio 2017, the subfolders under your unique ID are different than they have been before, and I don't always remember the path. So it's a good idea to specify where you want to keep things. So in this case, I am just going to do an example. So I'm going to name my project example, and notice that when I change the name in the first text box, the solution name also changes. So you don't have to change the name down here. Now, as far as the path, the easiest way is to click on Browse, and I am going to put this on my M drive, my private drive here at school. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it here. I could put it under a folder. You see I have quite a few folders, including folders for this class, but right now I will just put it right on the M drive. And you just hit select folder. All right, so there you go. You want the create directory for solution to be checked. It should always be checked, but it doesn't hurt to double check that it is. All right, then you just click on OK and wait. Depending on the speed of your computer, okay, and this is what you will see. I already mentioned it in the PowerPoints. You get a form. Again, it depends on the size of the window, how large the form looks like. Over here, here's the name of my project, all right? And again, good old Microsoft, the name of the form, okay, it's just Form 1 with an extension of .bb. So the form1.bb corresponds to this. And notice it's in, there are square brackets that say design here. When you get into really coding a program, you will have two tabs here. One that says Form 1, but you should rename the form, but as of now, form1.bb in the square brackets design, that shows you the form and all the objects that you may put on the form. The other tab will just say form1.bb, and that is the tab that shows the code that you will create for the project. And you'll notice over here, the left side, I do not see toolbox to put anything on the form. Do not worry about that. I told you, if you don't see it, go under View. There's Toolbox. Now, a couple of things. By default, Toolbox overlays the form, which you don't want. Notice that in the middle of the three options in the upper right-hand corner, there is a push pin. When the push pin is sideways, it overlays the form. When you click so that it goes down, okay, the toolbox moves over so that it is not covering the form. Now, sometimes when you get the toolbox, something like this will happen, or you may only get one option. Out of all these things, 99 to 95% of what we'll do in this class is using objects that come from the common controls. So you should, if this is compressed, just click on the triangle next to common controls, and there are the majority of the objects that we'll be putting on the form, such as buttons, such as text boxes so you can enter information, and things such as this. I mentioned the fact that by default, the form name is FRM1. You should rename this form, and good coding practices say that objects should have a three-character prefix that represents what you're doing. So in this case, this is a form, so I'm just going to right-click, hit rename, and I'm calling